Hello, Laura.
Hello, Stephanie. Nice to see you again.
So lovely to see you always. And we've had quite a busy month.
Was March the life-changing month that you thought it would be? Eek.
So we are filming this episode for our April forecast on March 26th, just before the final solar eclipse in Aries and just before Neptune enters Aries. So I feel like within the next few days, there's going to be a major shift, but I definitely feel since that Virgo eclipse, like building momentum, you
Mhm.
know?
Yes, you feel something brewing underneath the surface. You're just not sure what it is. And I feel it collectively too.
Oh my gosh. Every like 15 minutes
Mhm.
looking at news headlines, you're like, oh, oh. And then knowing that Neptune is going to enter Aries, you're like, oh, oh,
Okay.
oh, you know? Yeah. So,
So should we do the March recap?
yes, take it away.
A lot did happen in the news though.
Oh, yeah.
So on March 3rd, Mercury ingressed into the sign of Aries, and there was a news story regarding Luigi Mangione. People are going to start to think I'm his stalker or something every time I talk about him. But there was allegedly a sex tape filmed at with like cinema styled porn videos. And I thought this was interesting just because Luigi has Venus and Aries at 3 degrees and Venus at the time was at 3 degrees. And this was the 2 days before Mercury in Aries sextiled Pluto in Aquarius at 3 degrees. And how sex tape of a transit is that?
And he has his son in Taurus, so you know his sex tapes are going to be high quality.
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
I said that he's a very sensual, sexual person.
Yes, and it's coming true.
And it's coming true. We need to see those tapes for research
Release them.
purposes. Research purposes. Um, and then on March 4th, there was the State of the Union address. And I just thought this was so interesting because the Democrats wore pink, which was reminiscent of the 2017 Venus and Aries retrograde with the pink pussy hats. And I was like, you need to do better than wear pink.
I
We're
was just
seeing
going to say, this is the lamest thing I've ever heard. Like,
ever.
cl- I'm speechless because this is not going to move the needle. We literally have Elon, who nobody freaking voted for, running and wreaking havoc all over the government. And I don't know if we need an insurrection, but like we need to do something.
Mhm. Well, especially when you see protests happening all over the world, Serbia, Slovakia, Turkey, they're literally throwing grenades in their chamber of Congress and taking to the streets. And then you see Democrats wearing pink. You're just
It,
like, what?
yeah, that also feels very like Venus retrograde coded because it's just like, um, Venus in Aries is this warrior archetype, this bold expression of what
Mhm.
you believe in your values. And Venus is retrograde right now, making it a little bit more wonky. And yeah, just showing up and wearing pink, it's like that's how you're going to stand up for your constituents. Barf.
Yes, you got to do better than that. You got to
Mhm,
do better.
mhm.
On March 10th, Mahmoud Khalil was taken by ICE on Columbia campuses. He helped lead the student protest for Palestinian rights last spring. He was the leader of the student encampments. And I also thought this was interesting since Mercury was not yet retrograde, but it was in the pre-shadow. And also we're leading up to the energy of the last solar eclipse in Aries, which these eclipses coincided also with the surge of bombardments from Israel on Palestine, but then also the student encampments that happened last spring.
Yeah, this news, if you're listening and you are not aware of it, this is one of the most important things to educate yourself on. Mahmoud is a political prisoner for his speech, for standing up against, Israel's genocide, and he's a legal citizen. And this isn't a direct attack on all of our First Amendment rights. And the Trump administration is literally setting the foundation and precedent to attack citizens for their beliefs and speech. And also this month, I think a couple days later, the Trump administration didn't let some professor or doctor from France into the country because they found a text message or something where he was critical of Trump.
Mhm.
It's like,
Yes.
that's fucking absurd.
It's actually very scary because Columbia campuses are private property. So at any time, if they find a reason for you to be detained, they could literally come into your home and take you. Like that's how scary this is. So please take this as a warning that if they can do it to Mahmoud, then they can do it to any of us. That's why it's so important for us to stand in solidarity with the students. And since then, they have also tried to detain a South Korean student who has a green card. And that yes, the First Amendment right still protects green card holders.
Mhm.
And another student, I forget his name because I just saw that this morning. And they are now suing the Trump administration for essentially ICE hunting them down.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
imagine you're just like going to college, learning about historical genocides, and then you're like just at this Free Palestine protest once. I think she went once, and then it's like, oh, ICE is out to get you. How terrifying.
So terrifying. So, I just want to say a quick call to action for anyone who wants something to do and feels helpless and feels like stuck. Download the Five Calls app. You put in your zip code and it gives you scripts and different issues and the direct phone numbers for your representatives. It seems like calling doesn't work, but it really does have an impact when we all do it together. Please, please do something. Something is
Mhm.
better than nothing.
Yes. And Mercury is small actions. Mercury in Aries is small actions that make a difference
And they're courageous.
and that are courageous. Yes. On March 14th, we had a Virgo lunar eclipse, and simultaneously, we are going through a Venus and Mercury retrograde. And these aspects, these transits are important because on March 17th, Israel broke the ceasefire, killing over 500 souls, most of whom are children.
They killed 80 children in 51 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't even know what to say at
I
this
know.
point. I
I'm,
mean,
I'm so speechless. I just,
um, the world needs to wake the fuck up. And if you are a white person and you have remained silent, I am going to call you in and encourage you to use this retrograde to reflect on your values, Venus, and your words, Mercury, and to speak up. It's
Mhm.
just deplorable, and we are complicit. It's our tax dollars. We're all complicit and to different degrees, and you shouldn't let that guilt and shame keep you quiet. You should use it as a motivation to make a change and to stand up and be courageous and protect those who need it most. This is absurd.
Mhm. If you are confused about it at this point, it only takes you like less than a day to figure out what this really is about. Like, there is no two sides, there's no conflict. This isn't a war. It's actually very straightforward. And when you realize that, it just, I don't know, something in your brain breaks. You feel like you've been lied to.
Yeah.
So, I do implore people to research it and to if you can't speak about it on social media because you're afraid to lose your job, that is a red flag. The fact that we can't speak up about a genocide it should not be controversial.
Mhm.
What I found to be interesting, sorry, this is such a vibe shift, is March 18th, the astronauts returned back to Earth after being stranded in space for 8 months. I thought this was interesting because the original launch date for Boeing Starline was set for April 2nd of last year, but it kept failing until June. And there was a Mercury retrograde in Aries. There was Venus ingress into Aries. And on April 8th, there was a solar eclipse in Aries. So it's like very similar time to like now, like the same Mercury retrograde in Aries and Venus in Aries and a solar eclipse in Aries that we're going to have this week. And they finally launched on June 5th, and they were scheduled to return on June 15th. But obviously they got they got stuck out there. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. It's not funny. Um, and the day before they launched was that Venus cazimi in Gemini, the Mercury conjunct Jupiter, um, and Mercury trine Pluto. So it was like that day when we had all of those placements in Gemini. So I thought it
Mhm.
was just interesting that now they made it back,
Mhm.
kind of under the same sky as when they were originally supposed to leave.
Oh, that is fascinating. Gosh,
Yeah.
stranded in space for 9 months.
And did you see the picture of the woman, the astronauts, when they came back? They like aged 10 years. They came back
Really?
with like white hair. And yeah, being out in space is not good for your skin,
Oh my
apparently,
gosh. No wonder the aliens look how they look.
literally. And it's interesting too, because you sent me this over text message how Gail King, Katy Perry, and Lauren Sanchez and other women are going into space sometime this spring.
Oh, right.
You're the one that sent me that.
Yeah.
And Gail King has been vocal about how scared she is. Like she's been on TV saying that she has a bad feeling. Gail, don't go.
Yeah.
That's your intuition telling you not to go into space.
Consult your local astrologer before you go, Gail.
Yes. On March 20th, they discovered cylindrical structures underneath the Khafre pyramid, the middle pyramid in Giza. And I just thought that was also interesting because, I don't know which aspect this is really, but I thought that was a very Mercury Kazemi or like Mercury going to be Kazemi moment, this like sudden discovery of what the Giza pyramids actually are, which are not tombs, they're like energy holders, frequency holders.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that. And no, it also happened on the solstice,
Oh,
which is
that's
a
right.
world point,
That's
right?
right.
At
That's
zero
right.
degree Aries. And like you said, the Kazemi, when Mercury is going into the underworld. And in a Kazemi, you're also hidden, right? You have the power of the sun, but Mercury is kind of hidden in there as well. So there's
Mhm.
this element of revealing something that's been hidden too. So
That's
that's
so
all
true.
very symbolic.
Yes. But I was like, and it's interesting because I was at Chichen Itza that day, and the Mayans didn't consider them to be pyramids, but frequency holders, like
Hmm.
energetic centers for the constellations. So I think ancient technology is going to be revealed to us as these oligarchies are doing whatever they're doing. Like it's like
Please,
Tesla could never.
never.
Oh, I needed that laugh. On March 24th, what a freaking Kazemi this was. Jeez,
Mm.
so triggering. Mercury Kazemi in Aries. The Atlantic journalist leaked text messages from a group chat with high-level government military officials. Pete Hegseth, who is the head of the Department of Defense, I believe, about a Yemeni strike.
Yeah. They're like war plans over text. So, so absurd.
So, and it's so Mercury. retrograde and Aries coded, the fact that it was a journalist, Mercury,
Mm-hmm.
that it was a group chat, Mercury, that it was about war plans,
Mm-hmm.
Aries,
Mm-hmm.
just all of it was just like,
Mm-hmm. And we're in this Venus retrograde that links back to that 2017 Venus
mhm.
retrograde. Um, and wasn't that one of like Trump's main fixations during that first election cycle was Hillary's emails?
Yes,
Yeah.
you're so right. We don't want to hear about the emails anymore.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Gosh. Um, Two journalists were murdered by the IOF, another Mercury theme. They were very young, very beloved.
They were besties
They were besties.
from childhood.
Mhm. And it just goes to show, why do they have to murder journalists if there's nothing to hide?
And yeah, um, I think Hassam was one of the names of one of the journalists, and I think he was 23 and he wrote his obituary before he died.
Yes.
No
Yes.
one, no 23-year-old should have to write their own obituary.
Mhm. That's right. That's very Mercury Kazemi. The sorry, just bearer of bad news, Mercury over here.
Mhm.
The IOF lynches and kidnaps Oscar-winning director Hamdan Balal in his ambulance while they were treating him in the West Bank. And he's now home and recovering. But just imagine, like, you make a film about settlers really like torturing you in your home, and then that happens to you in real life.
Yes. So he got attacked by a mob of Israeli settlers. Then he went to an ambulance to seek treatment after he was brutally beat.
Mhm.
And then the IOF kidnapped him out of the ambulance, detained
Mhm.
him. His lawyer couldn't get a hold of him. Now he's at home and recovering. He went to the hospital to treat his wounds. But 3 weeks ago, this guy was on stage on one of the biggest platforms in the world, standing next to Selena Gomez, winning and
So
accepting an
true.
Oscar.
So true.
Fucking absurd. No one is safe.
No one is safe. And I think he even said that in one of the interviews. He said, I thought winning an Oscar would at least protect me.
I,
It's so absurd.
yeah, this needs to be a bigger story. Like,
Mhm.
once I saw that, I was like, oh my God. Like, because you see all the pictures of him standing on the stage 3 weeks ago
Mhm. In
next
a
to Selena.
tux,
Hmm.
in a tux, in LA. And it's also just crazy, like how art is imitating real life and imitating itself again, because this film was about his own experience living in the West Bank with settlers, right? And then to actually have it happen like this, like the man was lynched
Yeah.
and then kidnapped. Like I just can't, like my mind can't wrap itself around this. And again, this very Mercury, why are you going to kidnap and try to murder this man if he's not telling the truth? They're just telling their stories. They're killing the journalists, they're killing the truth tellers
Yep.
because they want to erase the history. So the astrology of March, which isn't over technically, but it's ongoing this weekend, has been literal.
Yeah. The
And
symbolism is off the charts, and we're gearing up for the grand finale. So I know our next recap will probably include the last week of March because there's going to be some wild developments as well. And
mm-hmm,
and like we were saying before this call, it's just like every 15 minutes there's like crazy news. So these are just snippets. There's so much more. There's like the dismantling of the Department of Education. There's invoking
mm-hmm,
the Alien Act from the 1800s that was
mm-hmm.
used in Japanese internment camps. There's so much that's going on. And we have to fight back.
Yes. Silence and non-action is not an option anymore, clearly, because you can be a US citizen and be locked up in a concentration camp just if you say anything like against this government.
Those are the
So,
precedents that they've set and that it's what they're actively doing right now to citizens. So,
mhm. So with that being said, are you ready for April?
yeah, let's dive in.
On April 4th, Saturn in Pisces will sextile Uranus and Taurus at 24 degrees. The last time they hooked up, I love this that you said hooked up in a sextile was 1997.
Because it seems kind of like cute and steamy, you know?
Mhm.
When Saturn and Uranus come together in a cute way, I really love it.
Mhm.
I really love it. The last time we had Saturn and Uranus coming together was in a square in 2021, and oof, was that rough.
Mhm.
But also very important because it shook up a lot of like stagnancy and broke down, dissolving and corroded systems that it revealed a lot, right? But I think that this planetary connection, the sextile hasn't happened for so long. And this is really welcomed because Saturn is that planet of dedication and responsibility and long term effort. And Uranus is innovation. So it's almost like some sort of risk that you've taken is starting to pay off.
Mhm. I like this too. It feels like some kind of change is afoot.
Hmm.
Saturn and Uranus are at the end of their transits and they're both going to move signs. Saturn in May and Uranus in July, I
Hmm.
believe. And so I think they're speaking to each other, because Saturn is like the boundary, right? And the last visible planet, Uranus is the planet that starts the modern planets, the generational planets. So I think this is kind of cute. Like, okay, this is the past. Now, what's the future? Let's make some changes so that our Pisces and our Taurus chapters are coming to a close.
Yes, I love that. I think it's going to bring, I'm hoping and visualizing that it brings some sort of welcome change to old
Mhm.
systems and structures. And it feels like very potent for tapping into revolutionary energy
Yes.
in a good
And
way.
and revolution in the way of resistance is just one part of the story because resistance is necessary when you're resisting a violent system. But there's another part of revolution that's about co-creating something new because you need to have something to go to after the dismantling of the whatever we have, which is like racist and just gross. I don't want to curse, but like we have to co-create something differently. And I think Pisces energy is all about the imagination and dreaming. And Uranus and Taurus is also reminding us that there's already technology within indigenous wisdom and the intelligence of the earth and our bodies that we don't necessarily need AI or these robots that this oligarchy is trying to shove down our throats. That there's already so much within the earth that we can lean to.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. The same day, Mars in Cancer, I can't believe Mars is still in Cancer,
Oh
sextile
my God.
Uranus and Taurus at 24 degrees.
So real. Oh my gosh. I was just thinking that the other day. I can't believe Mars is still in Cancer. Mars
Mm-hmm.
first entered Cancer on September 7th of 2024.
Yes.
We're talking early April here. Like, ugh, gosh. Okay. Yes. Mars in Cancer, sextile Uranus and Saturn on the same day. So
Mm-hmm.
it's aspecting that Saturn and Uranus energy and it's giving you that courage, confidence, motivation to take a risk, to try something new, to stick with a plan. I think when Mars and Saturn come together in a gentle way, it is really lovely for consistency.
Hmm. Yes. And I really also like using Mars and Saturn for concentration
Mhm.
and for focus. And I think having Mars be the trigger is going to, yeah, catalyze people to actually take action. I mean, this is my hope. This is why I keep saying things like this to just encourage people to take the action.
Yes, yes. And it could also be a really lovely day to set a boundary or sever a tie or walk away from a situation that ultimately feels liberating.
Mhm. Doing things that are focused on community care, going to a local community fridge,
Mhm.
offering to donate or volunteer at a um, what are they? Community kitchens. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because Mars and Cancer is about protection and caring and food. Taurus is also food. Something that's helpful for organizing and mutual aid.
I love that.
That all happens on April 4th. Then on April 6th, the sun in Aries will sextile Jupiter in Gemini at 16 degrees.
Just a mini sigh of relief. I feel like just enjoy this highlight in the month while you can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, Jupiter is a planet of support and expansion and also your beliefs. And the sun is the great illuminator. So this could be a powerful day to use your voice to help educate others, to gain attention for important matters. More personally, you could experience some sort of lucky news, or maybe you're just hanging out with friends and you feel seen and appreciated. But I think considering all of the hairy cosmic transits that we've had, this would be a day to really find joy
Mm-hmm.
and rest and recalibrate.
Mm-hmm. I feel like Jupiter has also been in Gemini for forever. But it's only been a year, less than a year. Oy
No,
vey.
it feels like a long time.
Right?
Hmm.
I think it's because all of these planets that we've been experiencing have been either in their fall or detriment. And so we're experiencing this also the shadow aspects of these planets and these signs.
Yes.
So I think the sun is exalted in Aries and Jupiter is in its debilitation in Gemini. I would say maybe it's a good day to finally make that choice,
Mm.
make a stand, because Jupiter's expansion, Gemini is the choice, lots of choices. Maybe today after the retrograde, it's you know committing to a course of action.
Yeah, I like that.
The same day, Venus retrograde in Pisces will trine Mars in Cancer at 25 degrees.
Yeah, I think what's so interesting about this is that it's going to bring us back to January 25th, the last time Venus and Mars met up, but it was flip-flopped. Mars was
Mhm.
retrograde and Venus was direct. Now Venus is retrograde and Mars is direct. Um, I I feel like this energy is generally good for feeling supported, for having gentle and compassionate interactions with other people. But I feel like there's something that's being like uh ignored.
Mhm.
Like maybe it's like keeping the peace and not fully speaking your truth or kind of tiptoeing around something and playing nice almost.
Mm. Because of Venus's exaltation in Pisces.
Because of
It's
that
like more,
retrograde element.
yeah, it's more Mars and Cancer people are so passive aggressive.
This, yeah, that. Hmm. Hmm.
I'm throwing some shade. It's like,
It can definitely, I feel like Mars and Cancer, you get one or the other, right? It's like
Mhm.
you, yeah, part of your lesson with that placement is learning how to channel your anger
Mhm.
and deal with conflict in a healthy way for you and your body, right?
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, this could be a cute day for romance. It could be a day where you're processing your feelings through art. You could have a good cry. I think I cried the last time they met up on January 25th, but I cry
Mhm.
every day these
Every
days.
day. What transit is every day? Just being having the moon as your time lord.
Yes, and just having like empathy for humanity.
Empathy,
Oh,
literally. I feel, I don't know. I love Venus and Pisces, but this feels like an emotionally manipulative day. I feel
mm,
like Mars and Cancer people, if they, like you said, don't know how to channel it, they are emotional terrorists.
I dated one once. And, dated is a strong word, but horrifying.
Dabbled with.
Dabbled, and I learned my lesson quick. I was like, no, 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 no.
Because also they could be, it could be an out of bounds Mars too. And I just don't know. Like, I know one specifically who it's just I never know where I stand. And we're not romantically linked. He's just a
Mhm,
friend, but like
mhm,
I'm just it's just like very confusing because I feel like they use them your emotions as weapons against you.
mm.
I don't know. Maybe that's my own experience with Mars and Cancer. And Venus and Pisces people tend to be very delulu. My mom is a Venus and Pisces and it's retrograde, so it's like nostalgic, right? But I don't want to be too much of a Debbie Downer because I feel like relationships of all kinds, romantic, platonic friendships, are really being tested right now.
Yes.
Because like we had the North Node in Aries, the South Node in Libra, the South Node being a point of release ruled by Venus. And then Mars was retrograde and now Venus is retrograde. I think a lot of people are going through it. So the fact that they're coming together in a trine, like I don't know exactly what this means, but I feel like something is going to come to the test because it's more harmonious than a square, right?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it really is lovely energy. We're being Debbie Downers. It's going to be a cute day. You're going to enjoy this
Yeah.
because the sun is with Jupiter as well. I just think there might be something where in reflecting on your interactions with people, looking back, you might be like, "Oh shoot, I wish I would have da da da. I wish I would have said this or I wish I would have brought this up.
Mhm.
There is that kind of element of reflection and retrograde that's involved.
Mhm.
I will say these two planets are going to meet up one more time on May 22nd, and thank God they're going to be in fire signs. We've got
Yes.
Venus in Aries, Mars in Leo. That is sexy, that's creative,
Very
that's hot,
sexy.
it's confident.
Yes.
So, whatever you are not saying on this day, you are
Mhm.
full force on May 22nd.
Mhm. But just because it's a harmonious aspect doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a good experience. Sometimes
Hmm.
the flow can also be, um, the flow means just flowing.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, I like it better in fire signs, obviously, because we're both fire signs. But
Yeah.
anyway, on April 7th, Venus in Pisces will conjunct Saturn in Pisces at 25 degrees.
Yeah. So this is going to bring you back to January 18th. So themes and topics from that day. And then the final connection is April 24th. I can remember January 18th was not a too great of a day around here. So I'm not exactly looking forward to this. But
I'm like,
yeah,
what even happened that day? I feel like that was a year ago.
I know. In collectively, I have no clue what happened. But that was the day. Sloane got a concussion that day.
Oh my goodness.
I know, my little babe. So I'm gonna like glue her to the floor or something. I don't know. Just
Yeah, or
yeah,
strap her in.
yeah. Hmm.
I don't even remember what happened that day. I was gonna say I usually like Venus conjunct Saturn because it's like commitment and I guess people don't really like a serious tone. I mean, my Venus is Saturn ruled, so I feel like I'm used to it, but I don't know. I think when this happens, just because Venus has more dignity, I think a lot of people might get engaged this day, or
Mm.
just people have like a hard launch on their relationship. Maybe they weren't sure before, like on January, and now it's like, okay, let's do this.
Yes.
Or the final time on April 24th when they come together again.
It's definitely like no bullshit energy.
Mm-hmm.
And you could get like, I think I got some sort of random opportunity come in my email. And I was like, this isn't for me, but maybe by the end of this transit, I'll get some sort of opportunity that feels aligned, you know? But so it
Mm-hmm.
could definitely be a day where you receive a contract, like you said, discussing commitments in your relationships or professional world. And it is a day of like no bullshit. So, like setting
Yeah.
boundaries, being open and honest in your relationships can lead to a more solid foundation, even if it is like temporarily uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. On the same day, Mercury will station direct in Pisces. Ring the alarms.
Thank,
Ooh.
thank goodness. Thank goodness. This is going to end at 26 degrees of Pisces, and it's stationing direct pretty much in conjunction with Saturn, Venus, and the North Node. So that feels major.
It feels very major. It
And
feels very like fated and destined.
yes, and it's really wrapping up that Venus Saturn story too. So whatever happens today is also going to be tied into that April 24th storyline when Venus and Saturn meet for the final time. Um, I think in general, Mercury stations, there can be like a moment of revelation, but it's important to note that Mercury is still in the sky. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like Mercury wakes up and is like zoom, 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 like here I go, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take time. So you're still moving through the post retrograde shadow period. You're still kind of undoing some of the miscommunications and sorting through uncertainty, but it's a process.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting how both Venus and Mercury are going from Aries to Pisces at the same time. And Venus is going to finish up as well. It's just something's going on here. I don't have the words for it yet, but I feel like it's epic.
It it is. It is. You can feel it collectively, right? I mean,
Mhm.
like we've been talking about all month, we've been moving through this energy together during the retrograde, and then there's going to be some sort of shift. I think also this is around the same time as the TikTok ban.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
there's
It's
going to
supposed
be
to be April 5th.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's going to be some big development around that day as well. So
Mm-hmm.
stay tuned.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Wait, bringing you back to January 18th because it went dark on the
On
inauguration.
Yep. Yep.
That's true. Ooh, okay. We shall see on the same day. So, April 7th is a big day as well. April 7th, Venus retrograde in Pisces will sextile Uranus and Taurus. This is adorable at 25 degrees. So, the 24, 25, 26 degrees seem pretty big hotspots.
Very active and busy. And yeah, I love this energy. This is great for coming up with solutions to problems, for making unexpected progress, for mingling with people who you wouldn't expect to kind of light you up or really enjoy. It's a great time for feeling creatively inspired in new ways. So to push yourself outside of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm. This could have an ex lover or an ex friend come out of the blue all of a sudden. And maybe you all of a sudden have a love connection that you just didn't expect from a person that you would not normally go for.
Yeah.
I was actually telling my friend that she needs to be more open minded of the package someone comes in because I feel like as somebody who needs like a lot of time to get to know somebody before I'm attracted to them, you can't judge a book by its cover. You have to give people a chance so that you get to know them and what their values are. And you can't know someone's values, talking about Venus, unless you talk to them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so April 12th, the full moon in Libra. Oof. I'm just reading Stephanie's notes. I
Yes.
know how she feels about these transits.
Mm. Yeah. April 12th, I would say, is going to be one of the biggest days of the month. So definitely flag it because we have the full moon in Libra and Venus retrograde ends on the same day. The
Mhm,
ruling planet of the full moon in Libra is Venus retrograde. Well, it's
mhm,
Venus stationing direct. So
mhm.
not only do you have this big full moon energy, and this is the first full moon in Libra that isn't an eclipse. We've been experiencing eclipses in Libra since 2023. So there's just a lot of action, and then there's this big turning point because Venus has been retrograde. So this is going to bring us back to March 1st was the day that Venus went retrograde.
Mhm.
So events, storylines tied into that time frame as well. The reason why I'm a little wary about this full moon is that it is square Mars in Cancer.
Mhm.
And it is literally the day of the Chiron Cazimi. So the sun and Chiron are exactly at the same spot in the sky. Chiron is the wounded healer for any astro newbies out there. It represents like our deepest pain, our healing journeys, our wounds as a collective. Um, yeah.
This makes me very nervous. I'm not going to lie. And normally I'm so positive and optimistic. You all know me. But this is on Israel's ascendant.
Yes.
And the square to Mars and the Chiron Kazemi, I mean, granted, it's not an eclipse, but every lunation we've had between Aries and Libra, there's some new story that explodes literally
Mhm.
in this story. And oh, I'm just nervous.
Yeah. And like we said, it's that stationary Venus ending its retrograde, but it's ending the retrograde conjunct Saturn and the North Node.
Hmm.
And Mercury as well is nearby. It's just a lot. Saturn is a planet of destruction, um, and borders, like how
Hmm.
you define borders, limits. So Mars and Cancer, we have seen themes tied to
Children,
nationalism and racism and, um,
children.
yeah, children on a mundane level, right? That if that doesn't mean if you have Mars and Cancer in your birth chart, I'm not saying
Yeah,
that you
mundane
have
level.
those mundane level, um, meaning like world transits. But yeah, I would say that collectively this is an important day to earmark. It's going to be a big turning point. And personally, when you have these full moons in Libra, it brings some sort of change to your relationship dynamics. And it doesn't have to be a romantic partnership. I think people get too hung up on that. Like it could be with a best friend, it could be with a business partner, it could be with a roommate, it could be with a neighbor. But like the way that you show up in your relationships, are you embodying your values? Are you giving your power away? Um, are your relationships reciprocal? Do you
Mhm.
feel seen and appreciated? I think all of these topics that we kind of tend to skate over are going to be bubbling up to the surface.
Yes. There is something so interesting too, because this is the third decan of Libra, which is the Four of Swords, which is Jupiter in Libra, I believe. And the Four of Swords is a card about rest and retreat and rejuvenation and healing. So there is something about releasing, letting go, the relationships that no longer serve you, or you just like have your values are just not aligned anymore. Like facts, right?
Hmm.
You can't be with people that don't value the same things as you. And so there's something about needing the time to recuperate after this full or during this full moon.
Yeah, and pausing too. Like because Venus is stationing direct, that doesn't mean you have to make a decision today. It means you can pause, you can reflect, you can reassess. Like capitalism, colonialism, imperialism makes you believe that you need to go, 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 act, 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 now, now, now.
Mhm.
That is not true. You can
Mhm.
pause before you move forward.
And since we just had an inferior conjunction, which was the Venus Cazimi, now Venus is going to be a morning star, which is the more young, masculine warrior archetype of Venus post the retrograde.
True. Yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
As Stephanie mentioned, April 12th is also when Venus stations to go direct in Pisces at 24 degrees, still conjunct Saturn, North Node, Mercury in Pisces. Yeah.
Yeah. Big day.
April 15th, Mercury enters Aries again. Post retrograde shadow period ends on April 26th.
Yeah. So this is kind of the next phase of Mercury retrograde. And because we had the retrograde traveling through two signs. So now you're kind of retracing your steps from the Aries portion of the retrograde. And yeah, so you're kind of like tying up loose ends here.
Mm-hmm. I like Mercury in Aries. I feel like I'm just very blunt, more blunt than normal. People keep saying that I'm mean and I triggered them. And
No,
just like
that is that
Aries.
is exactly the spirit of Mercury and Aries. I live with two Mercury and Aries, and it is all about
Oh, that's
um
right.
yeah, it's that energy is very playful. Like
Mhm.
their love language is like
Teasing.
fighting, teasing,
Yeah,
guilt
yeah,
tripping,
yeah.
like um I tell Joey all the time, I'm like, because he roasts me constantly,
Mhm.
and I'm like, you can dish it, but you can't take it. And that is very Mercury and Aries. Like I'm like, if I roasted you the way that you roast me, he's like, oh my God, I couldn't handle it. I'm like, yeah, I know Cancer raising, you couldn't handle
Mhm.
it. Um,
So funny.
but they like to have fun.
Mhm.
It's very playful and it can be a busy time for your mind, an exciting time for your mind to come up with new ideas. Aries
Mhm.
doesn't really know about failure, which is why they're so like brave and courageous because they're like, I'm just gonna do it and
Mhm.
see what happens. And then they get up again and they try again. It's that
Mhm.
first zodiac sign. So they haven't like traveled through the whole wheel and accumulated all these like sad sob stories by the time you get to Scorpio. So it's just Aries. So they're like, I'm gonna do it. Why not? And they go, oh, it
Yeah.
didn't go well. I'm gonna try again.
They just take risks.
Yeah.
What I also love about Mercury and Aries people is their flirting. Yes, it's roasting, but they know how to flirt. I'm telling you,
They do.
it's very sexy, I have to say.
I wound
So
up married to one.
I know,
They know.
which I guess you have to either get with a late degree Aries or an early degree Taurus to get that Mercury and Aries person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That could be cute.
Mm-hmm.
Um, on April 16th, Mercury in Aries will conjunct Neptune in Aries.
Oh
Dun,
my gosh.
dun.
0 degrees on a world point. My only note says bring tissues. I I feel like okay, so I was writing my horoscopes for Cosmo and I was like writing about this aspect and what I really wanted to write was IDK. I don't know. We've never lived through
Never,
Mercury
yeah.
conjunct Neptune in the sign of Aries. So like I really don't know what to tell
Or were
you.
you like, we're entering war?
I know
'Cause
that's what I
that's,
really should,
because that's the only thing we know of
Yeah.
from like historical context is that we went to a civil war.
Yes. Yes.
You know.
Um, so funny. And sidebar, I was doing horoscopes or writing like talking points for one of the other horoscopes assignments that I have. And I did put in there, I was like, Civil War. And they're like, how can we rebrand this? I'm like, I don't think we can rebrand
I
that,
don't think you can rebrand that.
but maybe I can just say something about history buffs and the year. And but yeah, really the only thing we know is Civil War,
Hmm.
dot dot dot.
But
So
definitely big news. I think big news stories will happen on this day,
yes,
you know.
yes. Also deception.
Hmm.
I could see a lot of like propaganda and fake news or the news trying to like avert our attention. Maybe there is something horrific that the US is complicit in. Again, something crazy that is unfolding, but then they kind of try to distract us
Hmm.
because Neptune is this like fog illusion. Um, it could also be the loss of a journalist or a beloved mercurial figure,
Hmm.
or um, yeah,
I was also thinking, okay, this is me being very optimistic in this transit,
give it to
is
us.
because Neptune also brings people together.
Hmm.
Neptune is unconditional love also. So I feel like Mercury conjunct Neptune, because that is a new cycle with Mercury and Neptune, is people coming together to maybe okay start a new app, new social app, or people coming together in some way to, I don't know, change something. Because I also think of Aries as pioneering and engineering something new coming out of the head, new
Yes.
ideas. So it could be something innovative that is announced or people are working on or working behind the scenes and not telling people yet. Who knows?
I like that. Let's lead with
Mhm.
that.
Yes. I'm just trying to think of all the positive sides. I do think that we would be remiss to not share the reality of the situation, which is that it could be they announce they're going to war somewhere.
Yes, it could be that.
Hmm.
And it could also be a day. It could be a day of many things. And like
Hmm.
we said, IDK.
We don't know.
We don't know.
It could
So
be that on that day we announce we're going to war with the people rising up.
yeah, wink wink. It could be we just have never lived through this, so we're gonna have to report back. And I think, personally, this is also a day where compassionate conversations can happen. Your sensitivity is your superpower. Um, and creating art can be healing, but it's definitely going to be a big news day. So you don't need to panic. You just need to feel, and you need to remember that we are all interconnected.
And isn't Mars at the anaretic degree? It's like at 29 Cancer when this happens. So it's
Oh,
like,
oh,
uh, yeah, something is gonna pop off. I'm not looking forward to this because anytime a planet enters Aries, I get the biggest headache.
me
Like the
too.
worst,
Yes,
the worst headache.
yes.
If y'all don't know, in medical astrology, Aries rules the head.
Uh-huh.
So
Um, you just reminded me the last time that Mars was at the anaretic degree, that was the day that Justin Trudeau stepped
mhm,
down.
mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
so pin that everyone because something might be related. Oh my gosh, are we going to go to war with Canada?
Maybe.
Ugh. All right.
This
Anyways,
is
let's
like
keep.
what?
Yeah. Who knows at this point?
Well, it might be because Neptune, the Civil War was a war about like brothers, right?
Mm,
Like the North and the South. So it wouldn't be totally out of the realm of possibility since Canada is our northern brother,
mm, mhm.
or fighting for resources or something like that. Who knows? They'll come up with anything to go to war about.
I
Let's
know.
just be honest. It's like, come on. And they say women are emotional.
Please.
So the next day on April 17th, Mars will finally enter Leo.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This we're going to be in the post retrograde shadow period until May 2nd. So we're almost there.
Almost there.
And yeah, it'll bring us back to November 3rd, which was when Mars first entered Leo, and then also December 6th. That's the day that Mars went retrograde in Leo. So you are tying up the final pieces of your Mars retrograde story. Congratulations. Mars gets a little bit more dignity. Um, Watch out for taking things personally and only centering yourself in the narrative of your life.
Mm-hmm. But
But
Mars is also bravery and creativity
yeah,
and courage.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
you can use your creativity to be courageous.
Yes, exactly.
Hmm.
This will be interesting once Mars goes back into Leo, because it's going to bring us back to last year. Just
Yeah.
like what even happened last year. Um, and finally, out of Cancer, I think just the heaviness of that transit is going to be such a relief, honestly.
Mm, I can't wait.
I can't wait. April 19th, the sun enters Taurus. So we are in Taurus season.
Cute. My note says, embody your values, bitches. Practice what you preach. So, yeah, just a friendly reminder for all of us. It's not just enough to speak about our values, but are you really embodying them and living by them when no one else is around?
Mm-hmm. I like Taurus season where I live because all the flowers bloom. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yes. And it gives you a little bit of like dedication and consistency to go after what you want.
Mm-hmm. April 20th, Venus and Pisces will sextile Uranus and Taurus at 25 degrees. And this is linked to the April 7th events.
Cute.
Yeah, we
Again,
like this one. Mm-hmm.
just welcomed energy, similar topics to April 7th, unexpected developments in your relationships or contracts that leave you feeling inspired or maybe even hopeful.
Mm-hmm. And now that Venus is going forward, this is such a cute day because Venus is exalted in Pisces and Uranus is in Venus's sign. I don't know. I really like this day.
Yes. And on top of it, the same day, Mercury in Aries is forming a sextile with Pluto in Aquarius. So that also feels like another sweet
Mhm.
aspect.
Yes. Deep conversations,
Hmm.
talking about things that might be taboo, like money and sex and politics.
Or, gee, genocide. I don't know.
I don't
Things
know.
that shouldn't be taboo, but for some fucked up reason are.
Yes.
Yes.
I sense a hint of bitterness.
Yeah. I don't know. But, use your
Yes.
voice to make a difference. This could also be a great day for changing the way you speak to yourself, releasing
Mhm.
limiting beliefs, changing your habits. Pluto
Mhm.
is transformative and it's meeting with Mercury in a helpful way. So
Mhm.
it can leave you feeling empowered.
I also think that the best way to overcome your fear is to just do it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like it,
Unfortunately.
right? Like the only way is through. So
Hmm.
sometimes when you're afraid to speak out, the best thing to do is to speak out. If
Hmm.
you're afraid to have that conversation, is to have that conversation. Even if you're like shaking or you break out in hives, is actually the thing that you need to do. So this could be a good day, I think, especially since also on that day, the sun in Taurus will square Mars and Leo at 0 degrees.
Ooh, we're getting in fights.
So
Yes.
we're already predicting this.
Yes. This is because it's fixed energy too. So it's like, there isn't really that mutable, open to interpretation or considering other people's. There's more of a stubbornness involved
Yes.
here.
Yes.
Um, I think sometimes when the sun squares Mars, it can just be a really busy day. And like maybe you're running around and you wind up feeling exhausted, or you wake up super energized and you're excited about something. But the confrontation can definitely come up on a personal level and the collective level as well.
Hmm. I say this as somebody with fixed sign placements. Fixed sign people are annoying
We're the
because
worst.
it's so annoying because it's like you will literally not budge.
No, no. You can't move me off of my hill with
No.
anything. That's not possible.
Especially a Taurus. Hello.
Hmm.
Just try.
Yeah.
Just try. On April 23rd, the sun in Taurus will square Pluto in Aquarius. Yowzes at 3 degrees.
Welcome to my life, as Simple Plan said.
Yes, that's true. You have this placement.
Yeah.
What is your advice for people?
Stop trying to control the outcome because you can't, and control is an illusion.
Yeah.
And surrender. And like you said, Pluto, the best way to work with Pluto is to embrace your fear.
Hmm.
And not like irrationally, like don't run in the street if you've always been scared of cars, but like if you even, I think I've given this example before. Like if you're scared of, or if you don't like being cold, go do a cold plunge. Do something the
Hmm.
opposite. Make yourself uncomfortable.
Yes.
Um, make a list of things you've avoided doing because they make you uncomfortable or you're fearful of them, and then do one of them.
Hmm. Exposure therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually have a lot of squares in my chart as well, which are crisis points. So you have to make a choice to overcome your fear. Like there's no escaping it anymore, but you can reap the biggest rewards once you do. I
Yes.
feel like they're the most rewarding aspects, to be honest with you. Sure, you're going to get triggered by your shadow,
But it can
right?
also be a big day of self-awareness,
Hmm.
self-reflection, recognizing the in which you've already changed or evolved. Like you can walk away with this energy feeling proud of yourself. It can be a day where you actually reclaim your power. Like I found on a lot of Sun Pluto days, I end up feeling stronger,
Hmm.
or it's your resiliency. You can be
Yes.
connected to your resiliency. And like Sun Pluto people are like cockroaches. You can't kill us, you know? Like we are resilient. We will continue on. So, um, yeah, and the sun is like the light as well. And so it's kind of shining light on the shadow and what people would rather ignore. And so,
And
yeah.
that's so true because like Taurus is the flowers, right? What grows above the ground, and Pluto is the subterranean realm.
Mhm.
So having this square, it's your opportunity to see what's underneath.
Yes.
It's a very beautiful transit. I would not sleep on this one.
Hmm.
April 24th, Venus in Pisces will conjunct Saturn in Pisces at 27 degrees again, right? Because we had this one, it was retrograde.
Yeah.
And I like this because Venus is at its exaltation degree.
Oh, you're getting engaged. You're entering a throuple. You're doing something that you just love, that makes your heart sing.
Hmm. I really like this day. It's like a hard launch day. Or if it's not with a person, then you're committing yourself to something.
Yes.
Commitment to self, commitment to romanticizing your life.
A spiritual practice, a
Mhm.
activity that lights up your inner child or inner teen.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I like it. April 26th, Mars and Leo will oppose Pluto in Aquarius for the last time at 3 degrees. Yowzas.
Beep, 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 beep. Okay, we're gonna ping this one as well. Um, this is also one of the biggest days of the month.
I'm just shaking my head, just remembering the other ones that happened. I'm like, who's gonna declare martial law?
Yes, yes. That's the day that that happened.
No, it was December 4th
Uh-huh.
when um Mars was stationing to go retrograde.
Okay.
And
But then didn't they get rid of
mhm,
the president, right?
yes, they did. They impeached him.
By the opposition, wasn't it? On the opposition?
Hmm.
Oh,
Yes. But I'm just saying, like, I feel like whenever this Mars is involved, something happens. Something,
maybe we can get rid of a president.
yes. You know, there was this Simpsons episode. I don't know if you've seen it floating around as a meme that they predicted Donald Trump would die. He would be have a funeral on April 12th, and that's the day that Venus goes direct. Have you seen that meme?
You stop it. No, I haven't. But I know the Simpsons are like the
Yes.
ultimate divinatory.
Yes, predictive
Yes.
programming.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if something like that does happen. Not that I'm wishing anybody ill will or death, because I'm not that kind of witch, but
I am.
I,
Just kidding, kind of.
sure. No, I believe that when you do when you do harm to others, it comes back to you in karmic retribution, right? It's almost like you don't need to hex somebody at this point, but we do have those witches who do that kind of work. So this could be some if this is true, then this could be some kind of upheaval in the government or but the thing is JD Vance cannot be our president. We're exchanging one goober for another.
Um, okay. Is anyone concerned? Where is JD Vance? Like he like doesn't even
He's around.
exist. It's like Trump and Elon.
Yeah,
You know what
but
I mean?
oh my gosh, did you overhear that leaked video of JD Vance complaining about Elon Musk? I was like,
Yes.
he's
The
jealous.
girls are fighting.
Girls are fighting.
But yeah, it's like he barely exists. But you're right.
Yeah.
No, he cannot be our president either.
Like he's there, but he's just like not there. I know
Yeah,
what you mean.
which I'm sure he hates. Okay, April 12th. I'm so totally sidetracked on this Simpsons episode. Um, I just know that full moon in Libra
Hmm.
is going to be forming a square with all of Trump's his Saturn and his Venus conjunction in Cancer. Mars will
Yes.
be on top of it in his 12th
Yes.
house of, for
Yes.
anyone
Mhm.
who was wondering what that disturbing noise was, it was me slicing, making a little slicing noise
On her throat.
on my throat.
Yeah.
Um, so who knows? There could be something.
Hmm. I mean, I feel like ever since the election, which this Mars and Leo opposition, Mars and Leo opposite Pluto and Aquarius, the first time this happened was November 3rd, right? And then
Mhm.
Trump got elected. And I feel like now that they're both direct and Trump is a Leo rising,
Mhm.
I mean, it's very far, the orb, but still, it's in his first house. I don't know.
Mm.
Something is happening here.
Yes. And I will just say, I don't actively do spell work trying to unalive the president, especially if anyone from the FBI is listening and tuning in. Um, but I do pray every night, and you can do this too, anyone
Mhm.
listening. I pray every night that he is brought to justice.
Yes.
And you can do that because justice is based on his own actions. It has
Yes.
nothing to do with you. It has to
Hmm.
do with how he lives in the world. And
Hmm.
so may he be met with that and everyone
Yes.
else who is complicit in
And
genocide.
Benjamin Milikowski, who is a Libra.
Yep.
And so that full moon,
TBD.
TBD. I'm just saying, you cannot do all of that genociding and not get genocided yourself. It's the law of karma. What you put out, you get back.
May they be
So,
brought to justice.
exactly. So, going back to this Mars and Leo opposite Pluto and Aquarius, it's just the final time. So, it's continuing a story that began for you personally November 3rd. And then January 3rd was when it was still Cancer and Capricorn, right? Or was it vice versa? I don't remember.
Uh, no, you're.
Yeah.
Oh, no, no, no. No, you're right. It was November 3rd was Cancer
Cancer and
Capricorn.
Capricorn.
January 3rd was
Yes.
Leo Aquarius.
Yes. That's right. Oh, right. Because November 19th was when Pluto really went into Aquarius forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So just think back to I've been working with clients I've like helped them track what each opposition has been about for them. And for most of them, it's been confronting an abusive situation.
Mm-hmm.
So this could be like the last time that it's like closing out that chapter essentially.
Yep. Power struggles.
Mhm. On April 27th, there's a new moon in Taurus. Stephanie writes, I want it to be cute, but I don't know.
I love new moons in Taurus. Usually it's like one of my favorite lunations of the year, but this one is has that Mars Pluto opposition baked into it.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah. And it's at 7 degrees. It's in the first decan of Taurus, which is the Five of Pentacles, which has this vibe of scarcity and lack and feeling like you're alone. The ruler is Venus conjunct Saturn in Pisces. So there is this like somber feeling.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's true.
Loneliness. Yeah.
Loneliness. Uh,
Yeah.
it is a new moon, so it's setting new intentions. So maybe you do feel this way, but you're intending to grow something in the darkness of the moon. You like to do your intention setting when there's like a crescent moon, right? A waxing crescent, at least.
Yes. When it's building. Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So maybe you're really in your feels on this day. And then maybe when we get to like, I don't know, the moon goes into Cancer, you can set your intentions,
Hmm. I love
you
that.
know? Yeah.
Yeah. Let that opposition kind of ease up a bit.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just giving like sensitive feelings. It's feeling scarcity. I'm wondering even on this day if people are feeling like they literally cannot afford groceries or afford rent or something like that.
Yeah. And then also I'm wondering about like Taurus is linked to your values and your value systems. And I'm wondering if there's like pressure from outside forces to repress your values because we have that Mars Pluto opposition. We're already seeing these like breaches of our First Amendment rights. Like maybe there's another development, like collectively, where people are feeling like scared by the fascist regime. Don't
Mhm.
let them win.
Don't let them win.
The more we all speak out and continue to, that's how
Mhm.
we break free.
Separation is an illusion. That is why I also think all of this Pisces energy is in the air right now, is to remind us that we have mirror neurons. Do you know what mirror neurons are? It's literally like if you yawn, I yawn. If I cry, you cry. We're literally connected through our neural pathways. So people get scared because they think they're alone, but the more and more you build your local community and your online community, the more you realize we're not alone. Like we're all under this, I want to say regime.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're all going through it. And the more you protect the most vulnerable population, the disabled people, the trans people, the children, the most marginalized people, then we will all be protected. We should have been doing this years ago,
Hmm.
but that's another story for another day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. When I saw this new moon, I do a lot of magic on this new moon, but I was like, I think I'm gonna wait a couple days
Hmm.
because it, or maybe not. Let me think about it because you can also use the Mars Pluto as I'm going to fight back. I'm going
Hmm.
to use my courage to fight against the plutocracy, the
Yep.
oligarchy, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
On April 30th, Venus enters Aries.
Oof. Okay, so we're at the tail end of our Venus retrograde story. We're like in the post retrograde shadow period. It's going to end on May 15th.
Mm-hmm.
I really like when Venus is in Aries, even though it's, in detriment.
You're the only one.
I I think it's feisty. I think
I
it's
like it.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it gives you the courage to go after who and what you want and to show up more authentically and to do now and apologize later.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds us that we're all like works in progress. We don't all like perfectionism is an illusion. And Aries energy doesn't care about perfectionism. Aries just wants to do and try and experience. And I think that is something as a Virgo moon that I needed like minute by minute daily reminder of is that perfectionism is an illusion.
Mm-hmm. I loved what you said in one of your daily horoscopes. You said that perfectionism is, what did you say, it was white supremacy or it
Yes.
was, yeah, because I think that also holds people back from showing up because they think they have to be perfect. And that is just, that is a tool of white supremacy. It's literally that way on purpose so that people are afraid to mess up. And because we don't live in an accountability culture, but we live in a cancel culture, then people are afraid to say anything.
Yeah, it kept me quiet and silent for far too long. And it's like you have to just be the version of yourself that to have the future and the reality that we all deserve, you just have to show up as that now and mess up along the way. And I think the more that we talk about things like privilege and white supremacy and the way that they are indoctrinated, especially as white people, like I think if just more white people were like, oh yeah, white supremacy, and we're more not casual about it, but just more willing to talk about it, we could start to dismantle it. But
Mhm,
until then, like right now, it's like white fragility is just taking over the world
mhm.
and grow up,
I think
be
because
accountable.
people assume that white supremacy is just the KKK and white hoods, when it's actually
Right.
a lot more, like, sometimes it's more subtle than that. And also, white supremacy hurts white people,
Yes. It's
which I
always
don't,
subtle. It's insidious.
yes, because white supremacy makes people strip themselves of their indigenous culture. And white people also from Europe had their own cultures. They had their own spirituality. They had their own language. They had their own indigenous lands until that was stripped away through colonization. And what that does is disembody people to the point where you disassociate from your humanity and your emotions. And that is the saddest thing about this whole thing is that, like, we can all be in this together, but then what holds white people back is they're so afraid,
Hmm.
right? They're afraid or holding themselves accountable for something that, like, we all want to include everybody in.
Hmm.
And so if you're listening to this and you're a white bodied person, or if you're white presenting, or if you have your ancestors from Europe, it's like, it just get curious, like, where do your ancestors come from? What happened to your culture? What happened to your language? How come you're not connected to it? All of those things are part of doing the work. The last thing that I wanted to say is I do think that so Venus is a feminine planet, and I know we have to like rework these words, and Mars is a masculine planet. I do think it's interesting that Mars has been in a feminine sign of Cancer and Venus has been in a masculine sign of Aries. And I think we were we were invited to understand this duality of experiences and expand our understanding of what a feminine planet is doing in a masculine sign and what a masculine planet is doing in a feminine sign. And for me, it's seeing another side of feminine energy because everybody has feminine energy, men, trans people, women, right? And I think Venus and Aries to me is accepting that we have the right to be angry, that we have the right to be rageful. There is another side of the feminine that is not accepted by the patriarchy because we're just meant to be quiet and docile and, like tools for men. And I just hope more and more people recognize that side of them that is also like the righteous rage and the side of them that is a little unruly and chaotic.
Yes, I love that. There's beauty in rage.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
And to get more angry
Yeah.
and use that anger as a catalyst for change.
Anger is like if you want to be a magical bitch, you have to start using your anger. That is like magic is like setting an intention, but then you need to tie it to something energetic. And
Mm-hmm.
anger is potent.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that is like magic 101.
Mm-hmm. And with that, I feel like that's the perfect time to close out our April forecast. Thank you so much for being here. The easiest way to support both of our work is to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast, Stephanie's and mine. And please share this with all of your friends and family and your community. And we will see you in May.
We'll see you in May. We can't believe it. Bye.